Well, I graduated from Kendall in 2007 with a BFA in illustration and a minor in digital media and photography. I immediately moved to New York City upon graduation and pursued an MFA in computer art. And I've been freelancing in the New York City area for the last 8 years. I've worked in many different capacities for post houses, for startups, for new media projects. My current position is motion graphics, freelance motion graphics for a website. The way I found that job, I was working in advertising for the in-house ad agency of Prudential, and I had been there for about 3 years. And a contact of mine that I had worked with previously had recommended me for that job. That's how I've gotten the best jobs. The best jobs have always come from referrals. And in the beginning, it's really hard because you don't always have a network. You don't always have an updated skill set. You don't always have a reel that makes a lot of sense. But all those things come after being in the industry for a few years. I usually, if it's for commercial work, they usually have brand standards that your work has to fit in. So you're usually given a style guide immediately, and you're usually told these are the colors, this is the font, this is the style. So you have to work within their brand. When I was working for Prudential, there were 2 or 3 colors that we used all the time. There was one font that we used all the time. The same thing with the fashion blog where I'm at right now. You get one font. When I work independently, I usually seek out the story first, and I've never considered myself really a writer, so I collaborate a lot with people and tell real life stories. So the movie tends to write itself, but I try to work digitally as much as possible, starting digitally and ending digitally, because it just saves a lot of scanning, and it saves a lot of coloring, and After Effects is primarily the thing that I use to composite. I use Flash to do the actual rotoscoping, an animation technique where you draw over the top of live action footage, and that's primarily how I like to animate. But a lot of the times I'll take stock footage and cut the stock footage into the cut to make sure that it makes sense, and then treat it and animate it in Flash and After Effects. I'd say the best experience was probably making my film. I made a 4-minute independent documentary about a friend of mine who has Asperger's syndrome, and I made the film in 5 months, 5 or 6 months, and the reception. I entered it in a few festivals and thought, well, maybe it might get in someplace, and then 2 years later and 60 festivals later, it's still going. But yeah, it's been wonderful. It won Best Animation in Spain. It was second place in North America at a festival in Brazil. It's won an Asifa East Craft Award for writing in New York City. It won the Film Heals Award with the Manhattan Film Fest. It was nominated with. It was one of only 2 animated films in New Filmmakers LA. Advice for students would be work, 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 and when you're exhausted, just work more. I mean, There's no special secret. There's no shortcut. It's just work hard. For a motion graphics job, it all comes down to a reel, and the more different styles that you can have in your reel, the better. And the more projects you have, the better. A lot of times kids coming out of school won't have a lot of commercial work. Um, but, um, but yeah, just only your best stuff. Well, when I went to Kendall, there was no digital media department. There was no motion graphics major. So I was an illustration major um, because at the time I was in love with comic books. And I kind of discovered animation almost by accident, just by taking a digital media class, and absolutely fell in love and said, this is exactly what I want. And so going to New York and going to SVA, I definitely would not have gone if I wouldn't have found that in school.